Let's talk about let's talk about what really matters. The talk of the town, the biggest news of the week. I'm calling it the Activision Microsoft saga. So for those of you living under the same rock as Patrick Starr, Microsoft announced that it plans to acquire Activision for $69.7 billion, which is a lot of fucking money. To put that in perspective, I believe the Minecraft deal was only for like 8 billion or million or something like that. And then the Facebook was only 1 billion. So like this is like one of the biggest deals we've ever seen. Also, just for clarification, because I see a lot of different articles. It's they're trying to acquire them, but the deal hasn't gone through. There's a whole bunch of steps they have to go through. I don't see any reason why this deal wouldn't go through. But like keep in mind, like you remember when not Activision, but T-Mobile announced they were going to merge with Sprint. It took like 2 years for that shit to happen. So like it's not going to happen overnight, but like it's like a 90-something% chance this shit's going to go through, because they must be pretty confident with them announcing it publicly. But yeah, damn near $70 billion. With that means Microsoft owns the entire Activision catalog. With big titles like of course Call of Duty, Spyro, Crash, freaking let me look up what other Activision games. Look at it. I did not know that. I looked it up earlier. Activision owned X-Men Mutant Academy. Did y'all ever play that?
Nope.
That was a great.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't think I did.
But yeah, they get all the big Activision games. How are we feeling about this initial announcement, Jay?
Actually, I did play X-Men Mutant Academy. So obviously, like you already mentioned, like, you know, when anything happens, acquisition wise, yes, it does take a while, but you already know, like, this is still big news to, you know, just wake up and see. Like, it literally had like Twitter just ablaze, just the internet ablaze. Like, this is a huge freaking move. Like, $70 billion ain't no play money, and I kept saying that. Like, this is crazy, and it automatically made me wonder, you know, if Activision was just by itself, if Activision Blizzard, because that was already like, you know, a merger there, which happened, you know, years ago, but that was major when it happened. I wonder if Activision, like, by itself, like, how much is Activision just worth, like, if Blizzard wasn't on top of this. But you know, that's neither here nor there, because that's just speculation at this point, just curiosity. But this is freaking major. You know, everybody was wondering, like, what's going on with Call of Duty, and we'll get through everything. I don't want to you know, jump to the other topic that we have involving this, but it's major. Like, I mean, we've been making the jokes about Phil Spencer being Thanos right now, but that nigga really is Thanos right now. Like, we thought that Bethesda was huge. He's literally saying, hey, like, all right, the studios that we have now can't make the games, so we're just going to acquire everybody else and just make the games ours. And, you know, I can't be mad at it, because Microsoft has a ton of money clearly to just throw around. I mean, this came not even a full year after the Bethesda thing happened. So I wonder how long that they've been, you know, thinking about making these type of moves, because this is just insane to think about. And obviously, you know, we're really going to be thinking about 5-10 years down the line about console wars, like, or console wars even going to be a thing now, because all of these freaking studios are going to be under Microsoft now, and I don't think that they're done. That's even you know, more crazy thing. We were talking about the rumors about possibly Microsoft getting Sega. Like, they're not done. They're going to end up acquiring everybody, and it really is going to be Thanos and the Infinity Stones. Like, this is absolutely insane. Like, Call of Duty is freaking huge, you know, no matter how much we feel about it right now. But everybody keeps talking about Call of Duty. I mean, Overwatch, we talked about Overwatch 2 not being the best, but Overwatch in its prime was freaking huge. StarCraft is still huge. World of Warcraft, no matter how you feel about that, that's a freaking historic franchise. Diablo is freaking historic, and I mean, you got Candy Crush too. Like, I wasn't even thinking about that. They got freaking Candy Crush. So it's a lot of.
I didn't know Activision
like,
published Sekiro. I'm looking I'm looking at it. They published it. I wonder how that works. And do they own the rights? Yeah, do they own the rights to the character, or is it still for software?
No, they do not own the rights to Sekiro. They helped publish the game from Software, but they didn't like.
So it was like a distribution deal, basically. They don't.
Yeah, like so they used, because they used like, if you check it on Steam, it says excluding Japan and like, I think, like, and some Asian countries. That's because I think Bandai publishes in different territories. So on the West, they used Activision as their publisher. They help it just distribute it into the West, but it wasn't like Activision gave them money to develop Sekiro. From Software did
Overwatch, Prototype.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
World
some
of Warcraft.
So that was us. So that was just mainly us. Like for the U.S., Activision handled that.
Yeah,
because I know Bandai has Neo and Neo 2.
Yeah,
But even if that is just US, like think of the possibilities. Because what I was thinking about, I didn't see nobody say this online, but like I've always wanted to see Microsoft kind of throw their arena in the platform brawler. Like I would love to see them do some type of Smash Bros competitor, but like Microsoft lacks the original IPs outside of Gears, Forza, Halo, and Fable. They didn't have enough like original IPs when you Halo versus the damn Lamborghini. But now that they've acquired Bethesda as well as Activision, it's like they got more than enough characters to produce. And like I was like, okay, maybe we could get that Sekiro Ninja versus the Forza Lamborghini, you know? That shit could be lit. Spyro and Crash, they wouldn't end up in PlayStation All-Stars. They ended up in that damn Microsoft shit. Now that they got Activision as well as they got the Overwatch characters. Like imagine like fucking Tracer and fucking, you know, all the other damn characters from the game. This is a bigger deal than people try to put on. Not to mention that they own fucking Call of Duty, which is like arguably one of the biggest games, if not top 5 of all time, whether or not you like the damn game, and what they do with it, that it's gonna be interesting. What's your take on all those? Go ahead.
Can I ask something really quick for JG? Yeah. JG,
Mm-hmm.
how relieved are you right now?
Bruh. Literally, I was sweating while we were doing
I just looked the score up. Your boys won. Yeah.
Bro, I
just saw brain packing on Twitter.
I didn't want to yell, but during that last minute, we did some crazy shit, dog. Like I'm sitting there, like I gotta look at the replays. Like I was halfway paying attention, but I'm sitting there like with my mouth open, like, oh my god, how the hell did we do this? So it's freaking ridiculous. So yeah, why? This is literally like live action.
Yeah,
y'all.
people
like,
are smoking Brady packs on the timeline. So I was like, let me let JG like
bro,
a big,
we almost blew it, bro. We were selling it. We were selling some homes right throughout that entire second half. It's ridiculous, but in any case, yeah. But go ahead, your thoughts.
All right. Anyways, so this is about the Activision deal, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Smash Bros thing, absolutely. I think they should totally do it. They need to honestly do some cross pollination between games. I would love to see a Master Chief skin in Doom Eternal. I'd love to see Doom being maybe a skin in Halo Infinite. Like they could do a bunch of cool stuff. I think now they have all this IP. It'd be cool to see like Master Chief maybe in like a Call of Duty game. I think the coolest thing about this whole deal, which I find very interesting, is like the possible collaboration within studios of like having studios like making different franchises instead of the ones that have always made them, and allowing them to like nurture and try different things with those franchises now that they couldn't before. I remember how like when Bethesda got acquired, everybody was like so excited because Obsidian, the guys who do like all the good RPGs, they were the ones behind New Vegas for Fallout, but Bethesda owned the rights to it, so they could never make a New Vegas 2. But now that Bethesda and Obsidian are both under the same umbrella under Microsoft, that could happen now. Like we could get a New Vegas 2 by Obsidian. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I know we're going to talk about different things, especially about like Call of Duty. I think there's a topic about that specifically, but I'm very curious to see like what potential like combinations of studios might end up doing different IP that they've never done before. Because I'm telling you, those Activision studios deserve to try something different. I know they're tired of doing the same shit for the past decade, and like let them do something different.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump all over these stories, so let's like deep dive on this. So one of the first things is Sony made an announcement. They made a statement. They're butthurt, and they basically said that they expect Microsoft to honor the.
Wouldn't you be butthurt too if you lost $20 billion in stock?
Oh yeah. That was on the notes too.
Like,
you know the funny thing is about like this shit is like it goes to show you. This story like kind of showed me how many people don't actually understand some of the business side of things, because like I saw a lot. Yeah, they just participated in the console war. I saw a lot of Sony ponies. Well, Sony's gonna come back and they're probably gonna buy Ubisoft, and I'm like,
what?
Sony. I hate to break it to you. I love Sony exclusives. The people listening, but Sony don't got Microsoft money. Like they're balling in a different league. Bruh.
Microsoft could buy Sony out. They could buy all of Sony if they wanted to. That man could literally clap Sony and take the entire company if they have that much money, man.
I think the only companies that make more money than Microsoft is Apple and Google. Maybe?
Apple, Amazon, Google.
Oh yeah, Amazon, Apple, Google. Yeah, but Microsoft is top 5. They're top 5. Yeah, they got a different type of money. So I'm like, nah, Sony can't.
They have trillions. They have trillions.
Outside of PlayStation's people and maybe like their cameras, like Sony phones, TVs, they don't really sell that well. Like Sony it's a big company, but it's not Microsoft level as people think. So I thought that was funny seeing that shit. But I seen a tweet from Frost. She said it's kind of like what you were saying, JG. Where like they got 2 Infinity Stones now that with Bethesda and Activision, they about 3 Infinity Stones. Yeah, before they become Bethesda, they keep spending this money, and it became. I seen people talking about monopoly. Like, how do y'all feel about that? Like, do you feel like that would be a problem if Microsoft acquired all these studios and it would hurt gaming as a whole, like monopolizing the situation?
No.
Short term, no, I don't see it because one, they don't even own a majority of the market. Like from a money standpoint, they're fourth. They're still fourth. By acquiring Activision, they reached 4th place. So they're not even close to even acquiring like a vast amount. I'd be more concerned if let's say they did buy Sony out. Then yeah, I'd be like, okay, this is looking kind of spooky now. But like them buying up Activision, even though like Activision I think was the biggest publisher, like no, they're not close to it yet. I think that's just people just trying to have an excuse to like make it like try to make it as negative as humanly possible without understanding the business implications.
Sony ponies.
What you laughing at?
Because the Sony ponies, like I'm trying to wrap my brain around this. Like for the people who listen, like remove yourself from gaming and we're talking about the world.
Business.
Microsoft is in about 95% of homes in the world because of Windows. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think anything is ever going to overtake Windows. Like we've kind of just accepted that in our life. Like just take yourself out of the Xbox and understand that's the type of money and how many homes they penetrated. You got what Linux, and then Apple has its own software, but like they own a small market in terms of like actual computers. Like they're in a lot of homes on top of with the Xbox, so they got big checks they can blow. But go ahead. Was you gonna say something, Jay?
Also, I agree with Ethos. Like if we got into situations where they're acquiring their direct competitors, then yeah, like we need to hit the panic button because it might get a little spooky. But on the other side of the coin, and like I, briefly mentioned before, like I think 5-10 years down the line, like this whole console war mess is going to go away. I think we're finally going to get to that point where it's not going to be a thing because we're already seeing Sony, with their own Game Pass competitor, and they're putting their games on PC now. And I tweeted like as soon as this happened, I was like, I think this only needs to rethink this whole window with putting their first day titles that they're coming out with on the PC. Yeah, they need to change it because that 1 year, 2 year crap that ain't gonna work no more. That's not gonna fly. So they really need to change up their formula. And I was also asking about Nintendo, and people brought up good points, even though I still don't agree with it, but I understand like Nintendo still technically doesn't have to do anything because they really haven't been competing with anybody. Like you have Pokemon, you have Nintendo, like they literally just run that part of the market with the little kids and the nostalgia kick that they really people
look to Nintendo
everybody.
For creativity.
Yeah. So like they don't really need to do anything. Like this doesn't really affect them with Microsoft just acquiring every dev studio and every publisher. But yeah, I don't think that we need to hit the panic button right now. I don't think that we need to worry about a monopoly with Microsoft acquiring studios. Microsoft, which is literally at a point, like I mentioned before, that they just haven't been able to come out with those killer IPs, and they just keep hanging on the same IPs of Halo, Forza, and Gears. So it's like, what else are you going to do? Fine. I'll just spend the bread, and then I'll just buy everybody else. So then we could just get that money, and then we can get all these other studios to possibly, like you mentioned, cross pollinate between the titles that they already have and some new titles that could come out. Like just get those good minds together who's created this iconic games, and then just make stuff under the Microsoft banner. So Microsoft just gets all the money for it.
Yeah. Here's the truth.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say here's a truth that I feel like I will say is that if this had been on the other foot and Sony had done this, I would have been concerned simply because Sony, and this is the major reason why I feel like if you're not a fanboy of like the console wars or whatever, or of Sony or of PlayStation, if you really objectively think about it as a consumer, this is good for you too, because if Sony had done the same thing and acquired Activision, no way they would have done this in reality. But if somehow, let's say if the foot had been on the other shoe, or
Earth 2
shoe had
type
been on the other foot, yeah, if it had been an Earth 2 type shit, and Sony had picked up Activision, I'd have been concerned because Sony right now, their whole ecosystem is very closed wall. It's a closed garden. You got to be in the PlayStation ecosystem. You got to have a PlayStation, this piece of plastic, in order to be in this ecosystem. it's only just recently because they've been getting bullied by Microsoft to open up and expand. That's the only reason they've done that. If Microsoft didn't do this, and this is the idea of competition, if Microsoft hasn't done any of these moves that they did, I guarantee you Sony would still be doing the same shit that they've been doing for the PS4, dropping for exclusives on the PlayStation 5, never letting anything come to PC, sticking on that console, and they would have just kept doing this perpetually, probably forever. But Microsoft, which is the good thing, I think this has forced Sony that like your walled exclusive, like that doesn't fly anymore. Nobody wants that. And that's why I think it's a positive. Is I'd rather have this go to Microsoft, where literally their ecosystem is so crazy right now. Like you could be at any aspect of like the gaming space and you can play their games. That's the cool part. You're not locked down to a piece of plastic. You're not locked down to a specific area that you have to go to get it. You can go pretty much your phone, you can go to your console, you can go to your PC, and you can play these games. And I think that's like really important to point out here compared to Sony. And maybe Sony 5-6 years maybe catches up to this, but they have no choice now. It's not a matter of this is why I think JG is saying I agree with it. The model of making these tight, very good these very tight first party exclusive games, it does not work in this world anymore. We do not live in that reality anymore. Microsoft has basically bought that reality now. Like you cannot live that way anymore. And Microsoft right now, value wise, is an insane proposition. If I was 3 years ago already beating the drums, telling people that the PlayStation 5 was not worth the investment day one, I was already beating that drum when they first announced these. Imagine now trying to make an argument to somebody, and TBH, you brought this up too about getting gifts. Try now making that argument now with Activision now being under that, being under Xbox. Like, you're telling me I don't got to pay for Call of Duty every year? It might not even happen every year anymore, or I don't even have to pay for yearly releases now in that area. I'm getting access to a bunch of
For the
games.
longest, people have been saying Call of Duty should become a live service. Even if it doesn't, it technically is now because you can get it on the Game Pass for $10 a month. So like it turns it into it.
And think of this, right? Remember how I talked to you about the money proposition, like the make the math make sense, right? Like in order for you to get the value of the Game Pass, how many day one games would you have to get on the Game Pass that you want to play for you to, make sure it's worth the money, right? And I think we said it was like if you just had, because how much is it yearly? Like
120.
I forget. 120, right? So you just need 3 AAA games. That's it. 3 AAA games. If you play Call of Duty, boom, that's one. You already got Call of Duty down. 2 other games, easily. If Microsoft drops any 2 big AAA games a year, which they already have done, if they do that again, like another Halo, another Forza, or whatever it is, and you play those games, boom, you just paid for your Game Pass. And that's not even including all the additional bonuses that it gives you, like being able to play it on your phone, being able to play it anywhere you want, online, multiplayer, all that sort of stuff. If you're a console player, like all that gets bundled into a deal that is just it's insane. There's nothing on the market that even comes close to giving you that amount of value to play that amount of games. So yeah, you're just shit out of luck, Sony. You just gotta take the L and retreat, figure out where like how like I don't want to say ignorant, but like how like you just drop the ball on this completely and figure a way to like come back from it.
Yeah, seeing some of the response from like Sony fans, like how kind of out of touch. This makes me realize how I'm getting older.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because I was making the argument, I was like, first of all, the games I'm looking forward to the most are actually PlayStation games this year. Let's get something straight. Forspoken, God of War, Horizon, and I said, but I was like, if this was not my job and I was working a regular 9-to-5 job and I had a family and all that other stuff, I would see more value in and I can only pick one, and getting an Xbox with the Game Pass, because then my entire family will be able to play all these different games as well as I'm gonna get all these different games. And I was like, I'm sorry, as much as I love God of War, I don't love it enough to where I would trade in the Xbox with the Game Pass just for that one game, as well as like Horizon. I was like, it's just more, it's like looking at things from like bang from your butt, because like I've seen some people saying, well, I don't have a lot of time, so like I'm just gonna play God of War. I was like, well, you're only thinking about it from your perspective, basically. Like I understand that perspective, but like the average everyday person, they're gonna go with what gives them more for their money versus just like those couple of little amazing exclusives that you're gonna get. Yeah,
but I mean, think of it this way too, right? Like, and this is the thing I think is very important, right? Those exclusive, even think about last year, right? You got Ratchet and Clank Returnal, which was a very hardcore game. You got Ratchet and Clank, which is casual, and then what was the third one? There was like a third exclusive I think they came out with that was pretty big. I can't even remember.
Don't remember.
Okay, let's just say there was a third one. I just can't remember which one it was. If you think about that, those came out in the first like quarter, 2 quarters of the last year, and then after that, it was a drought, like a complete drought. And you can't like. Sony can't compete because the only console that does that type of thing and gets away with it is Nintendo. Nintendo's literally the only platform where they do that, where they just make like 1 or 2 exclusives a year, but people are willing to pay for it to play on those things. But I don't think Sony has that same like grip that like Nintendo does, like for their like IP. It's like what you're saying. It's like from a value proposition, it's like on top of this, it's hard to get a PS5 as it is. Still, like you have a better chance of getting an Xbox now.
Don't underestimate that. Yep,
that's massive. And a lot of people were talking about, oh, the Series S isn't a real next gen console. It is better than it is a really good value proposition. It's actually a very.
That's one of the reasons
console.
why the 360 won that last generation
because it was cheap.
It came out a year before Sony. Now, obviously, those two came out. PS5 and what's the name came out at the same time this time, but it's hard to get a PS5 compared to the Xbox.
Yeah,
and I think that's a very good point that you brought up, Ethos. Like, regardless, because Nintendo, the negative about Nintendo is that, like, you know, they've always had a third party problem. Like, and even the third party games that have come out on the Switch, like, they've been crap, right? Like, they just haven't run as well as the PS4 and the Xbox. So with this particular generation though, like Sony can't even fall back on, hey, well, we'll just let our multi-plats run us. Yeah, we'll just let our third-party games run us, because if you can't even get the console, then who's going to be playing on it? Like, people are still going to be playing on the PS4, but they want to play on the PS5. They want to play those PS5 exclusives, and they want the better system. So that's not even going to work this time. So if you can't get the console, and you're saying you're going to make more PS4s, like, that's going to work, because that's not what people are asking for. They want PS5. They don't want a PS4. So I think that this is really biting them in the butt. And yeah, like, and I think the other exclusive you were thinking about was Miles Morales. I think that was the other one. Yeah, which was basically just a DLC.
No, that came out in
2020.
That came out in 2020.
Did it?
Yeah, it was like a.
Did it come out in 2020?
It was like a launch.
You had a time flies moment like I did.
Yeah,
you don't know what year it is.
Yeah, so my bad. Yeah, I thought they came out.
It sold a lot though in
2021.
No, it sold a lot in 2021
because there's nothing to play. What else are they gonna buy?
But here's the thing. This is what me and Siggy were arguing, because the problem is that console fanboys and people who argue console wars, they only look at sales of the console, and they don't understand that that's not the game anymore. They think, oh, well, Sony sold, has a way bigger market share than Xbox from a console standpoint. There's only, like, let's say, I'm just throwing numbers out. Let's say 70% or 60% of it is owned by Sony with their PlayStation 5, and Xbox is getting demolished here. This obviously means that Xbox is still screwed. Like, Sony's still whooping them. And it's like, no, you don't understand. Xbox, this is what I said for many years, Xbox isn't looking at the game from a hardware standpoint. They're looking at it purely off of Game Pass. Game Pass hit 30 million people have now gotten Game Pass. And it's probably going to hit 50 million and probably keep getting higher and higher. When we have those months within the year that are like the Februarys, like this year, where it's just game after game after game after game after game, there's no way you're going to find a regular casual gamer that's going to know that there's like 5 major games dropping on, like multi-plat games dropping in 1 month, and being able to put up like $120, $160 for all of it, when literally they have either they pay $160 to play it all on their PlayStation, or they have it on Game Pass, and like maybe half of those games are going to be coming day one to the Game Pass. The value there is insane. Like, no one in their right mind, unless like you're just being biased, no one's gonna say, oh yeah, I'd rather pay the $160 than pay, oh wow, holy crap, I only paid $15 this month and I got to play all 3 of these games day one. That's the whole proposition behind why people don't buy games day one, and they'd rather wait till a sales drop happens or a game gets cheaper, is because they want to wait and then get the game at a lower price that they feel is more attainable to them. But if you have the Game Pass, that's like an ultra version of saving for a sale. So I don't know. It just makes a lot of sense. And then the other thing I think is important too is not only the software aspect, it's also Microsoft understands something that I think is very, very important for the future, and that's, simply put, it's that I'm forgetting my train of thought here. Why am I forgetting what I was just about to say? It was very important. Say something, TBH, while my brain tries to reload.
Well, there's stuff in my face.
What are you eating?
Chips.
Yeah, tell them what you're eating. What type of chips?
Barbecue baked chips.
Are they good?
Anyways, why you
I got some for you.
Yeah. Well, my brain is loading on what it was.
I was gonna say another thing that like I'm starting to notice on my timeline is the Game Pass is great marketing for Microsoft, in a sense that So, like, for those who don't have the Game Pass, there are certain games that always stay on the Game Pass, but then there are other games that rotate, kind of like Netflix, where it'll only be on there for a few months, and they swap some new games in there and stuff like that, whatever deals they cut with the studios. Anytime that they swap new games in, I notice Microsoft like tweets about it, and it always gets good press. Like the community, oh shit, this is what we can expect for the next month or two or whatever. And then now that they've acquired Bethesda and Activision, when these games are getting swapped, it's like it's constantly creating viral moments and like word of mouth, basically. And that's something that Sony does not have. Like you said, there's a long drought in between these games, and versus Microsoft is constantly pushing out content, not just from a gaming standpoint, but from like a marketing standpoint, just from like the business side. I see that helping them in the long run. The more studios that they acquire eventually is going to continue to grow from word of mouth because of social media. But what was you about to say, Jay?
Oh no, so I was going back to what Ito said. Like I think that literally like the greatest move that Microsoft made with the whole Game Pass situation is putting new games on their day one. Like if they didn't do that, because that's what I was initially expecting them to do with the Game Pass. We were like, oh, well, we see PlayStation Now, and you know people really aren't knowing it. But I remember when it first came out, you know, some people want to play some of the older games, but they never put any new games on there. Like that wasn't the point of it. It was to play, you know, some of the older games since the PS4 didn't have backwards compatibility. But with this particular thing with Microsoft was doing, I was like, oh, okay, well, if this is going to be the same thing, like I don't want to play the old game. Like that doesn't appeal to me. I know that it did appeal to a lot of people, and they did get to play some of the games that they, you know, never got a chance to play. But with them saying, hey, like Halo's coming on their day one, Forza's coming on their day one, like all these new games that people are actually anticipating, I think that you know, single-handedly for a lot of people like was the reason why Game Pass got so much value, and why like it's really good service right now, and that's why I feel like, you know, they're winning currently in the console war between you know, Sony and Microsoft. And like I said, this whole, you know, acquisition thing with all these dev studios is just going to make it infinitely worse for Sony to even, you know, gain some ground that they lost this year.
Okay, I remember my thought now. I remember. Okay, so what I was going to bring up, this is what me and Siggy brought up during the live stream, is that if you look at it, like we can shit on Call of Duty all we want. The last one was not that good and didn't sell that much, but still, the funny part was, even though we said that last Call of Duty did not sell a lot, it still hit #1 of like their top 10 sales, like across the consoles, like on PlayStation. It still hit #1 consistently. It beat out all of them. And then if you look at the top 10 beyond, like with all the platforms, literally the only PlayStation exclusive this year that got on there was Miles Morales. Now, guess what position it was in?
Probably 15.
Oh, this is 10.
Oh, my 10. Bad. Well, then 10.
Close, but no. So it hit 6. So your only exclusive hit 6th place. Obviously, you're going as multi-plat, so obviously you have a big sale issue. But remember, the reason why this got on, think about it this way. This is why I think this is a misstep. The only reason why Miles Morales got on this list, granted, it came out in 2020, was because of Spider-Man No Way Home. It was because
so Ratchet didn't get there?
Ratchet was not on there. No, it did not hit the top 10.
Actually, no. Now that I think about it, it makes sense. We grew up playing platformers, but I don't feel like they're popular with the new kids.
Call of Duty is still massive. It's still freaking massive. Like regardless, like every year, it constantly sells at top #1 spot every time. And now Xbox owns all that. And the crazy part is, Sony was the biggest customer of Call of Duty. Like it was like part of the 17% of like all the sales. Microsoft was behind at 11%, and 4th place, I think. If their proposition was, okay, we own this IP or we own this now, and all we have to do is make up that percentage to catch up to Sony. If we, like, I'm just saying, like in the case of if we wanted this to go exclusive or we wanted to put this in an exclusive box, they could easily hit it. Like I think they could totally hit it with the Game Pass now. So it's not a problem for them.
The only thing is they have like certain contracts in place. I've seen conflicting reports, like 2 to 3 years it goes up. But like I couldn't find like a definitive number of when the contracts are in place with Sony. But whenever they're done, Microsoft can literally do whatever they want with these games.
And I think that's the misunderstanding, is a lot of people are trying to throw like that out and just be like, it's not going to be exclusive on Xbox. And I'm like, me and Siggy said the same thing, right? If I spent, it's the same thing like the Bethesda, which is what blows my mind is people like have like short-term memory, because I feel like this is deja vu. When they bought Bethesda, everybody was yelling the same thing. They're not going to put Fallout and Elder Scrolls exclusively on Xbox. It was always a multi-plat. That would make no sense. Why would they lose money at the table to make it exclusive, right?
Like, and okay.
They literally did it. And then I was like, why would they not do that with Call of Duty 2? It's like, if you told me that I can only play it on Xbox ecosystem and all my friends who play Call of Duty are only in that ecosystem, and I'm sitting here with the PlayStation, like, nah, I'm gonna pick up a Game Pass and play that shit either some way, somehow, or I'm gonna pick up an Xbox Series X or S so I can play with my friends. Like, it makes sense. I think people can be like, oh, well, you'll lose out on money with Sony, but I'm like, if I just have to catch the gap that Sony was selling, if I can just catch that gap up, like close to being like the number one seller of Call of Duty, even if Sony, we lose that amount from Sony, it's worth it. Because I think a lot of people don't think about this. There is literally like entire divisions of Microsoft that are designated for risk assessment, and their literal job is to crunch numbers and be like, okay, in this scenario, how much money could we make? How much money will we lose if we did this and this and this? And they've already crunched the numbers. And in my mind, business-wise, if I was Phil Spencer, if I was Microsoft's like CEO, I'd be like, all right, if we just make this exclusively for us, would it work out? Would we find that lost revenue that we lose from, multi-plat sales? Would we make that up by getting people on Game Pass? And if the answer is yes, I'm going Game Pass all the way. I'm gonna be like, yeah, screw keeping it on PlayStation. Let's just put it on the Game Pass. And it's open enough on all the systems that it's not like people won't be able to get their hands on Call of Duty still. They're just gonna play it on their PC, play it on their Xbox, or play it on their mobile phone.
I don't know why people are complaining. I think this shit is a good thing because the ball is now in Sony's court. Bitch, do something.
They got to do better.
This is why competition is important. We complain, there's no football games because EA bought fucking the NFL license and shit like that. Well, now it forces Sony to do something. Like they cannot. They have to do a Game Pass now.
Y'all clowning Microsoft like the entire Xbox One generation. Y'all was straight up clowning them, telling them they didn't have games and stuff.
They deserved it, but they did it. They really did it, though.
Yeah, and they did it. Everything that everybody made jokes about them about, T-Bitch was clowning them every single podcast about. Phil took that shit personally, and he was like, all right, bet. And he did exactly what everybody said Microsoft was weak at. Y'all don't got games. You don't got IPs. You don't have, anything that meets up with Sony. Remember, the number one thing last gen was Microsoft didn't have games. They didn't have games that made them want to go out and buy Xboxes. They didn't have exclusive games that were that good compared to Sony's. That's why Sony dunked them, and the DRM mishap too. But that's why Sony PS4 just destroyed them. And on top of that, PS4 was a little bit more powerful. Then you move into the next gen, we have literally a reverse. The Xbox console is more powerful, regardless of what people might tell you. Technically, it is a more powerful machine. The ecosystem is way powerful. The value proposition is way better. The pricing is way more fair for Xbox. And on top of that, it's way more readily available than the Sony. People will have a high demand for the Sony console, and I think this is just my take. I think it's serious. This is my hot take. I think the only reason why the PS5 has sold a boatload has honestly just been because of the strength of the PS4. I think because so many people bought the PS4 last gen, they just upgraded to the next version of it, which would be the PS5. And that's my take. And I think what's going to happen is, and again, I state this again, it's not going to, I don't expect that like Xbox is going to overtake Sony in like console sales, like with the, consoles itself. But I do believe is that the Xbox Game Pass is going to like double time value. It's going to like double the amount of customers, I believe, like in the next like 2 years, 3 years. And on top of that, the amount of games that are going to come out are going to be insane. And you're going to be sitting there literally probably like that meme from Spider-Man where you're like, I've lost everything except for Spider-Man. And you're going to be sitting there with a Spider-Man machine. Like, and you'll be like, well, damn, like, I can't believe it. Like, there's nothing to play on this. This shit's dusty.
Yeah, I think it's weird.
I don't think you have a hot take. I don't think you have a hot take, Etho.
I think I have a hot take.
I don't. I think that's a perfectly logical thing to say that people bought the PS5. But I think that's perfectly logical though. Like if you think of it in a very logical standpoint, like yes, you're gonna automatically buy the PS5 because the strength of the PS4. Like you automatically just want the upgrade, right? Like this was a true upgrade. This wasn't like the PS4 versus the PS4 Pro, right? Like this was a legit upgrade. Like you get the SSD, you get faster load times. That alone, got people excited. Even the people that didn't even understand what an SSD was, didn't even know what it was. They didn't know about the speeds. They didn't care about that, but they saw that games were loading in 1 second, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, like this is it right here." Like you get a true 60 frames per second. Like, so I think that's perfectly logical. Like, it's a legit upgrade this time, so people, automatically want it. So I don't think that's too much of a hot take. But before I let you in, TBA, let me say, I'm going to give what Etho said another way when it comes to Microsoft acquiring Bethesda and Activision and ultimately making what they just bought exclusive. Why would you buy Bethesda and Activision? Why would you spend all of that bread just to keep these games on your competitor system. It literally makes no sense. Like, the point of getting these studios is to ultimately put them on your ecosystem. So yeah, you aren't going to lose a little bit of money from, taking these multi-plans away from the Sony platform and possibly, the Nintendo platform, but ultimately you're going to gain it plus more because, like Etho said, the Game Pass. Or if you don't even invest in the Game Pass, if you just get an Xbox or if you get a PC to play these same games. Like, I don't understand why this doesn't make sense to some people. I think you're just like, I think the people that it doesn't make sense to, they're just like completely jaded in this situation.
Sony cannot just go out and buy somebody and call it a day, like, and catch up. It doesn't work that. They're like, me and Siggy literally did the math.
They don't have the ecosystem in place or the money.
They don't have the ecosystem. They don't have the money on hand to do it. And on top of that, there's no one left on the board that can help even the gap. There's nobody from a value.
You niggas gonna buy Ubisoft? Nah.
Yeah, Ubisoft.
We don't want those games.
EA might help a little bit close the gap, but it won't be enough. Square, people have been talking about Square. Square doesn't do it. The only one that Siggy said, which makes sense, is buying Valve. But I just don't.
I don't see that.
Yeah, I just don't see Gabe Newell ever doing that. That would never happen.
They're their own damn platform.
That's the only one that they could afford. They could buy, and that could push the needle because then they could like help dominate part of the PC like selling.
With stuff like this, what I'm starting to see is like I feel like my jokes get lost in translation. When I bullied Microsoft saying they don't have any games, it was coming from a place of love. The Xbox 360 is one of my favorite consoles of all time. I wanted the Xbox One to do well, so we made the joke: Xbox don't get no games until they fucking get right. But what I mean is, like you were saying, like the bias. When those 3 years where we were doing the Nintendo don't got no games, Nintendo sad music, niggas was laughing and shit, bro. But when I started doing it at Xbox, then it became, I stopped once they had games. When we started doing the Xbox, then it's like, oh, you're like a PlayStation fanboy. I'm like, yo, I want all these platforms to do well. And so like, if I see something that's not working, then yeah, I'm going to speak up on it. But it's like, it's never anything that I want to see something fail. So it's interesting to see. I think this stuff is good. I think it gets us talking. It gets everybody interested again. The ball's in Sony's court. They got to find something to fight. It's like, what's the meme? Fight back, nigga. Fight back. Fight back. Yeah, that's what it feels right now. Like, yo, fucking never forget, Sony is the same company that when they put out the PS3 for $600, they told motherfuckers get 2 jobs. This shit happens in cycles, and it feels like, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but it feels like it might be time for Microsoft this generation to step up, because people forget during the GameCube PS2 era, Xbox, PS2 was number one. Sony. Then came fucking 360, PS3, 360 won that one. Then this next era, Sony came back with the PS4. So like, if we're looking at history,
they improve each other.
It might be Microsoft's time. History repeats itself.
And that's okay. You can accept that. It doesn't. It's not the end of the world that it's not the end of the world if your piece of plastic ends up like, not giving you what you like, or what like a competition does, or if people prefer the competition. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. Play what you want to play on whatever you want to, but there's no reason to just be like, I'm going to just like shit on this, or like be like, act like this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, this is just going to destroy the gaming landscape. It's just no reason to like just make that shit up.
People need to put their feelings to the side and just think logically about this, instead of just
your
having
identity is
their
not
bias, fanboyism.
Your identity is not your piece of plastic.